Yeah.
Doing my job in half a year.
Coach, how do you feel today went?
You know, I thought it was good, and you know, you go through it. I'd been thinking of this since March, but I didn't want to put it out too early because I thought it was kind of a neat idea to. All these guys went around the country and camps were going on place. Like, hey, how can we? You know, everybody. The one thing a lot of coaches talked about was we got to make the game better, and we got to help players, and we got to help young coaches. So we invited all the coaches within our state. A couple of the schools couldn't come because they'd already used their camp days. Some of the guys were on vacation, but we tried to open it up to a lot of schools. I didn't put it out too early because I thought maybe somebody else would steal the idea. I was trying to be a little, and I wish maybe we could have had a little stronger turnout. Although I think by the time we did the one in Fort Wayne, we ended up probably close to about 550, 560 kids. You know, we were fortunate. We had great facilities. The high schools cooperated with us. The weather cooperated. We're worried about hydration and medical. We tried to minimize contact because these guys start practice on Monday. It gave us a chance to see a lot of kids, but hopefully just had a feel of we were just trying to help young kids, and it was basic fundamentals, things that we teach. But you know, I'm enjoying watching Mike Krzyzewski coach the Olympic basketball practices. I like watching practices, and I'm watching the greatest players in the world just work on fundamental jump shots and layups and just base fundamentals. So a lot of things we did were base fundamentals, but I think there's a lot of rudimentary, elementary fundamentals to being a good athlete in any sport, and I thought it was a great day. And I appreciate our staff. We had a lot of good players, but I thought it was good. I hope it came across really good too. Not only the recruits, but just the high school coaches and the people in Central Indiana.
It's the kind of thing that can engender some goodwill and some relationships, right?
You hope, and at the same time too. I mean, I still think, you know, our recruiting it's not okay. I always think and this since I got here, as growing up in my state and going to my state school and coached at Oklahoma and selling the state school. I think the state school is hard to beat for any state kids. So we always want to start at home and want the best players. And sometimes maybe we don't like a guy. Maybe sometimes that guy doesn't like us. But we start recruiting at home. We've done okay. We could do better. I think the short term, getting a contract extension is helping the short term, but we need to win to get a lot of the best players. We got a great school, great environment, great academics, great social life. The school can do a lot, but also great players want to play. You know, putting guys in the NFL are helping us, like just talking to Nate there. That helps. But we need to ultimately keep pushing to win more. And I think as we do that, maybe we'll continue to get more and more and more. We don't have a magic number. We just want to take players that we think are good enough to play Big Ten East football and winning Big Ten East football.
You hope to continue this, make this an annual
thing? Yeah, it'll be
thing?
interesting. The way this thing's going, I don't know if these rules will stay the same.
Right.
Just try to take advantage of the rules and try to hopefully do a little bit of recruiting work today, but also, like say, a great goodwill gesture. I thought it'd be a great vibe for these high school teams at their programs. I asked the coaches, like, you don't have your local media guys come out, and because you're kicking off practice, so I thought it could be a good lead in to preseason practices and whatnot. You know, next year we do our camps in June at home, but maybe next year we do a couple of these in June leading into their summer practices. Because when we work with them, if it's in the state of Indiana, it can be a Kevin Wilson camp. I can't do one in Ohio. I worked at camp in Chicago, but I was working for college at DePage. And I worked at camp at Florida, but I was working for Coach Partridge in Florida Atlantic. So you can be a guest coach, and you can volunteer your time. You don't get paid for it. You're giving up your time to help the game, but to see players. Within the state, the rules say it can be a Kevin Wilson camp. That means I could actually have recruiting conversations. So next year, maybe. It's tough too. You know, you can only go to so many places. You know, I asked several schools who were redoing their turf fields, and like, hey, can you know, just because you want to pick the right locations, sometimes because of recruiting, sometimes because of field setups. As a matter of fact, Jeff said, man, these are nice stadiums. I mean, we're at some good fields today. I mean, Carmel's got a great setup. Westfield, Brownsburg, Lawrence North. I mean, so we'll see if we keep doing it. We'll see.
If you do keep doing it, what would you keep the same, and maybe is there anything you would do differently?
Well, in our world, like we basically had 4 camps, but we had 2. And we had 2 lineman camps. Now, if you're a high school coach, your kids were at 2 different locations. So in my world, that was kind of good. Now, if I did all the camp at one place, all of a sudden we need more field space. But you know, in fairness, like if I talked to one of the coaches here, like, you know, it was nice for the skill guys at this facility, but if their big guys want to go to camp, they had to travel. But you can't be at every place. You know, you pick your spots. And like I said, it'd be interesting when you go around the country. I mean, if you go off campus, some other states have more population. And the rule says you can do a camp within your state. So just think about that. Certain states with large geographic areas, large population, large football populations. So in some ways, it's almost like an advantage recruiting that. It'd be curious going forward how the status quo stays with the camp deal. What else?
If there is any kind of rule changes with that, how I mean, what would you kind of fight for? What would you want?
I personally think that once I leave my camp, it's not a camp, it's recruiting. So, I mean, you follow the guidelines that make it camp. Once camp ended, okay, guys, shake hands, can't talk to you now. Can't go talk, and all that. If I leave the state and work the camp, I could just coach fundamentals and coach football. I couldn't even say anything about recruiting. So there's just, I kind of think when it's on your campus, that's different. I still like doing our team camps and at our campus to show our facilities and whatnot. Right now we're regulated with how many coaches it can recruit, when you can call, how many calls, how many times you can go out in the fall, how many official visits you can take. But right now camps, it's kind of like you just got a number of days and you could go all over. And, you look at it, I've listened and heard that, of people that have raised a lot of money basically to support traveling money for camps. So for example, we went to Detroit for a camp, Sound Mind, Sound Bodies, and I was asked to go I had an opportunity to stand in front of some of the greatest players in the country and give a Ren 10-10 talk. But I also had a camp that night, so we had to get a jet and we had to fly up there, and those things aren't cheap. So does that come out of the Kevin Wilson camp budget, or does it come out of, that's when you ask those questions. When you go all around the country, is that camp money or is that recruiting money or is it gift in kind money or where does that money? You have alumni. I mean, it's just so it's not bad. It just needs to be somehow needs to be slightly regulated. Or right now you just have days and you just kind of have at it. So anyway, I don't know. They don't ask me a lot on rules, and we all have different opinions. But what us as coaches have a great way of finding rules and doing the best they can to make it legal. So.
You've mentioned before that these camps are valuable for coaches from smaller schools and things like that. Which other schools did you have coaches around for?
Earlier today, Western Michigan was in here. Indiana State was here this evening. Wabash was at all of those. Coach Leonard from Franklin was all of those. Coach Bart had a bunch of guys from U of I. I'm missing somebody. I said Wabash, U of I, Franklin. We had Eastern Michigan the other day at Fort Wayne. I think the guys at St. Francis. But we asked. A lot. I might be missing a guy or two off the top of my head.
So for the benefit of the people watching the video, define Ren 10-10 talk.
No, they were right there.
That helps.
All right.
Whatever. You guys good? I appreciate you coming. Because again, it's delicate things you can and can't do in recruiting. But a lot of schools get a lot of good coverage. So to get here and kind of put out the word, and there were some really good players that cosmetically are good, and guys were trying to recruit. And it's a long time, whether they're committed or not. It's a long time to signing day. It was a great opportunity. It could have went better, but it went really good. The weather was good. We had a lot of good players at all locations. We saw a lot of good young 18 and 19s that got on the radar that you like. So I think it was personally good. But I hope some of these guys that were kind of like a couple of my kids are just average players got some good fundamental work. Because like I said out there, you got guys that coached a couple Heisman Trophy winners, a bunch of first-round draft picks. There's a lot of good coaching out here. I put some out today. You're sitting there looking at Mark Hagan and Greg Fry. That's a pretty good combo of line coaches. And I don't care what school you're at and what conference. Those are two legitimate, bona fide coaches, and they're working with some ninth grade kid, helping him get in the stands. I think that's cool. And if you watched our coaches, and I think you guys saw them, they put good effort in. They weren't standing around. It wasn't cool. I was just walking around, checking guys out. But those guys were coaching them up, and I think that's kind of cool. I think it shows the type of guys we have. And we'll see. We'll keep building it. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks, man.